So we have a slightly different video today. This time it's a screencast / tutorial, and I'm sort of tucked into the corner of the screen, not the usual 4K video that you normally see. But today we're going to be talking about making awesome YouTube thumbnail graphics. And I'm by no means a graphic designer or a Photoshop expert, so some of the stuff that you see today might be a little cringeworthy. If you're an expert in Photoshop or you're an amazing graphic designer, I do apologize ahead of time. I like to go by this thing called copy-paste marketing that I do, where I see people doing some amazing things, and I say, maybe I can try that too. Maybe I can copy and paste those ideas onto my quote-unquote canvas and sort of work it backwards that way. And two of the people I'm going to highlight today, people I've talked about before, well, maybe not one of them specifically, is Roberto Blake. And he has an amazing channel for folks that are really getting into YouTube for their first time, and those people who might even be veterans in the YouTube space. He certainly shows us how to do YouTube in a very analytical, programmatic way with somebody who's looking for building up a real strategy, almost in a SEO, search engine optimization. He's doing it on YouTube. Got a lot of great content here, and he speaks at a lot of events. And of course, somebody that I reference in my podcast and on this channel quite often, Gary Vaynerchuk. But more specifically, the way that these two gentlemen create their thumbnails. And Roberto talks about this. It's almost one of the things that he always preaches a lot is sort of, we all unfortunately judge a book by its cover, and we're all sort of scanning the YouTubes looking for the content that we're searching for. And what a lot of people will do is will create these sort of standout graphics. And you can see here, he's got some amazing ones. Now, Roberto is a graphic designer by trade. This is the stuff that he does, so he's really good at it. He does some really nice work here with his photography and his background images and his fonts and everything. And you'll see on Gary Vaynerchuk, same thing. He sort of segments his pieces of content, like the daily V. You can see it sort of takes the different shapes over time here. He's trying different things with the thumbnails. They look different. They've got Gary sort of outlined in this white with the daily V and the signature number of the episode, so you know what you're getting into when you're clicking on something. Whereas this might be much more of like a lesson, right? Close your eyes till you're 29, and it's much more of a different kind of a thumbnail versus the daily V videos. So how do I do it? Well, number one, I'm just getting into this for my very first time. So I'm just starting to make these thumbnails. I'm starting to recognize that in order for myself to get up there in more clicks, more views, that kind of thing, we're going to have to up the game on the thumbnails a bit. So let's go ahead and dive right into Photoshop. Actually, first, before I get there, what I want to show you is this website. I use I'm not a graphic designer like I mentioned. Roberto does a great job. He's got like this nice artwork in the background of his thumbnails. And you can certainly go and get that sort of that's kind of stock photography. It's a very futuristic, bright and flashy kind of thing. For me, for whatever reason, I like photographs, and I like using space and sky photographs to sort of achieve that same kind of contrast between my text and my graphic that I'm going to import into the project. So I'm going to use that graphic that you saw on screen. I'm going to go ahead and open that up in Photoshop. This is the sky sample. I'm just going to select all and go back into my project. Again, remember, I am not a Photoshop expert by any stretch, but I like this part of it right here. I sort of like how the sky comes into this natural sort of sunset here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that as the background, and I'm going to free transform that. I'm going to stretch it out. I'm not really too concerned over how this looks at the end, because I'm going to be putting things on top of it. And then what I'm going to do here is just go ahead and crop this, or actually what I'm going to do is copy paste, and this creates a new layer, and this new layer specifically it fits right into my 4K resolution. And let me show you why I'm going to do that. I'm going to right click on this layer. I'm going to go to blending options, and I've already played around with it, so you might see this stuff come right into play, but I'm going to apply a stroke to it, and this stroke sort of just outlines this, and that'll be a nice outline for when it's in YouTube. Let me just pull up the YouTube list once again. If we look at Gary Vaynerchuk, you can see here he's got this sort of outline, and what this does is it breaks up the thumbnail from other people you might be subscribed to. And this is the whole idea behind creating awesome thumbnails, is the fact that if you've subscribed to a whole bunch of people, and everybody's using the same sort of just still image from their video, which is cool. You can do that, especially if you have a great video with a great backdrop or something like that. But having these extra added graphics and this extra God, I hate to use the word pop, but this extra pop in the thumbnail will hopefully get somebody to click on yours, especially in search results, not even just the subscriber list, but in search results. So what I do here is I create this stroke, and I can play with the size of this. I can make it really big if I wanted to be super obnoxious, but I think I kind of like it somewhere in the, say, 24 mark. Looks pretty good. And I'm using a gradient. You can use a solid color if you wanted to. I like the gradient because it sort of just gives this different effect happening here. It's a gradient. I like it. Again, I'm not a designer. I'm just rolling with it. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and drop in some text. And this is something that I'm still playing with. Again, people who are font experts and design experts, don't leave me hate comments below. But the idea here is something that I've learned a lot of is when I started creating thumbnails, which you might look in my other videos, they were just very, it was clean. It was, it was a thin script. It was in the middle. It was centered. It looked good. It looked good when I was creating it. What I realized is it didn't really stand out when I was on my mobile device. And really the trick is to fill up this space as much as you possibly can with the text that you're looking to highlight. And again, let me just pull up the example of Roberto, because I think he does a really good job of it, is, as you look at his videos, let me just click on his videos section here. What he does is he really emphasizes the keywords that people might be looking for. So in this case, passive income with Pat Flynn. Passive income is what you see again on the second thumbnail, but it's 5 myths about passive income holding you back. But the idea is that keyword, that big standout phrase is there, and you've sort of, shrunk the rest of the helper text or wrapper title around it. So I'm going to do that in this case. So I'm going to say, and I kind of already know what I need. I'm using a font called Upbolters. Create awesome. And I'm going to just position this like right over here, and I'm going to move that in a moment. But the idea here is try to use a big, bold font. This Upbolters font I can link up. Hopefully I'll link that up in the description. There's a whole bunch of videos out there if you're searching for different fonts to use, and that's one that I found. It's modern, clean, sharp edges. Looks good to me. Create awesome, and my big keywords are YouTube thumbnails. So I'm just going to do YouTube, and then I'm going to do another one, thumbnails. And then I'm going to make these a whole heck of a lot bigger. And I think 220 might be good. I'm going to position that there. And then thumbnails, same thing. I'm going to make this 220. And these should be pretty good in terms of size. We'll hold that for a second, and we're just going to move this a little bit over here. And we might play with that in a moment to make that a little bit bigger, but let's see how we do. The other thing that I see a lot of people do, and I'm just glancing over at Roberto's, I don't see him doing it. Well, he does to a degree. So let's say if we take a look at this YouTube live Q&A, he's using the YouTube logo in it. I often see folks who are doing things with Photoshop or other tutorials. They always use the logo, the elements of that brand in the thumbnail, because again, people are just scanning. And as they scan, they're just looking for Photoshop. They're looking for YouTube content, and those quick icons are just sort of subliminal, indicators to say, hey, this content's for you. And then they'll go ahead and read the rest of either the title or the description, or actually click the video. So what I'm going to do is pull in some logos. So I'm going to do the YouTube logo and the Adobe Photoshop logo. And again, I'm just going to select all, bring that over to my project here, place that over there for a second, do this one as well, bring that in, and then I'm going to free transform this stuff, and I'm going to put it like right here. It doesn't look too hot with the YouTube logo, but that's okay. Whoops, people at home who are Photoshop professionals are like, oh my God, what are you doing? What are you doing, Matt? Get better, get good at Photoshop. I will someday. I'm just going to throw those there. Again, I'm doing this for scanning purposes. People who are scanning for these thumbnails, for these icons specifically, will will kind of pick up on that. Now, let's talk about the crazy stuff. Let's talk about the antics of thumbnails. And a lot of it is that personality and sort of just bringing in ridiculous looking photos sometimes. And like in here, you see Roberto's always putting in these little graphics, like he's looking at the title. He's sort of saying, hey, I'm thinking about of comparing these two products, or if I'm buying these two different products, which ones do I want? So you've got sort of like this thinking face on, vlogging 101, starting with YouTube. He's sort of pondering that and also looking at the direction of the title. I don't know what that's called in an artistic term, perspective, view. I don't know, lens. I don't know what it is. But this is where you can get kind of creative. And I think really people who don't put their face in a YouTube, especially if it's a personality driven show, which many of the videos are on YouTube, you're really missing out on a lot of views. I'm going to pull in a photo that I took. Now you could take, if you're working in Premiere, which I do, Adobe Premiere, and you're filming yourself, what I'll often do is take a screenshot, which you can do right inside of Premiere, of the video that you're working in, and you can kind of use that as your sort of centerpiece for what I'm about to show you. Otherwise, what I did here is I actually created a whole bunch of stupid photos of myself one day of like thinking and looking and just like smiling and hands up in the air. And I can kind of use that stuff in my thumbnail. So I'm sort of thinking ahead there. I'm going to go ahead and use this tool right here. And that is the Selector Tool. Listen, people, I don't even know what the name of it is. I'm trying to hover over it to see if it gives me the name, and it's not. I don't know why. So I'm just going to go ahead and start selecting myself. Highlighting all of this stuff and making sure that I'm getting everything in here, because we're going to go ahead and put this in that thumbnail. And this tool will allow me to just cut myself out of this photo, or really just copy myself out of this photo. And I'm just looking for any spots. Sometimes it doesn't get in these white areas there. And I think I got it all. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Control-C, head on over back to my thumbnail. I'm going to go ahead and paste that there. But here I'm looking in the opposite direction, and I don't want to do that. I want to make sure that I'm like looking at the title. So I'm going to go ahead, transform, and flip horizontally. That'll put me over here in this location. And this is still a little too large for me. So I'm going to go ahead and free transform that, hold down Shift, and probably bring it to maybe like right up. Yeah, I'm gonna say like right about here is good. Maybe a little bit more to the right. There you go. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna leave myself right there. I'm sort of looking at the title. I'm sort of thinking about the title, and hopefully that will be a good indication of who I am, and you can kind of see my face. And if you're used to watching my videos, you know it's a video about me. But the fun doesn't stop right there. I'm gonna right click on this. We're gonna go to blending options. And I'm going to add that same stroke to this photo. So I'm going to go ahead. Whoops, not a texture. We're going to go to stroke, add that same sort of that same stroke that we have throughout the rest of the icon, or excuse me, thumbnail. And then I'm going to drop in a outer glow, which will just bring it to just a whole nother level of audacity. Just like, what is this? This is really just a whole, like this glowing Messiah type. And I don't know if I want 24. It looks a little too big there. I might do the whole thing at 16. So let's go ahead and bring that down a little bit. And I'm actually going to put it so that it sort of breaks the edge of this thumbnail. I'm just looking quickly to see if Roberto does anything like that. I don't see it on his screen, but it sort of just gives this cool effect, right? So it's sort of like this outline, which I'm sort of breaking through here, and this glow just sort of emphasizes my photo of myself. And I think I'm kind of happy with how this thumbnail has turned out. I don't really think I'm going to play with any of the sizes of the font. I think this will be the actual thumbnail of this video. So I really hope that was helpful. Again, the idea here is you're creating a thumbnail that is maybe a little bit outrageous, a little bit more emphasizing things that are happening in the YouTube video that you're putting up. Again, I have absolutely no Photoshop skills other than what you saw today with some copying, paste, and some effects on the different layers here. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope it was meaningful to you. I hope you got something out of it. It's mattreport.com/subscribe if you want to join the mailing list. If you enjoy videos like this, go ahead and thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like this, go ahead and hit subscribe to the channel. By the way, this video brought to you by userfeedbackvideos.com. That's userfeedbackvideos.com. It's a service that I put together. If you're looking for a review of your website, your marketing messages, your product that you're making, I'll do a video review of that product over at userfeedbackvideos.com. We'll see you in the next video.